That's the biggest concern with expansion, is just how am I going to continue the culture? And I think that Zoom is fantastic. I love that we can have these conversations anywhere in the world, and that's great, but there's something to be said about having in-person.
What are some of the struggles that you've experienced growing your team? Like, let's say this, what are some of the struggles you've experienced moving from an individual producer to a team leader?
The personalities, I think, has been something I've really had to learn and do a lot of research on, and disc profiles, and just really to understand how people operate and how people are different, and just getting to know each agent and finding out what their goals are. What are their personal goals? What are their professional goals? How can I help them? What do they need from me? Do they need a one-on-one every week, or is that distracting for them? Do they need more of a hands-off approach where they can call me and check in, and, or just really understanding the people that I have and supporting them in whatever way they need. That's been something that, because I learn differently, and I'm very self-disciplined, and I am such a driver, and I just go, 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 go. But not everybody thinks like I do. And so some people need more of a push, and they need a checklist, and they need things to be laid out very clearly for them. Otherwise, they don't know what to do. So,
what came to my mind is when we would interview agents, they would interview so well that we'd be like, you know what? We could see them being a savage. They're going to be great. Let's bring them on.
It's always tough interviewing salespeople because they interview
Selling
the best.
Shit. Yeah.
good. Yeah.
And then they would come in, and then I don't think anybody who stayed on, if they stayed on for good. If they didn't, they quit within a couple days to a week, or we were like losing our shit, because it was like one of our core standards or core values is coachable. Right. And if you're not coachable and you're like, well, that's the way I used to do it this way, and you're like, get the out of here. Like, I remember this one instance, we were doing a team meeting, and then we were talking about certain like ways of how they take a lead through a pipeline, and what questions they're asking and the reason why they're asking it, instead of just being like, you do it like this. We were learning and saying, this is why we do it. So I'm being very vulnerable, trying to help. Yeah. And then this girl, she's like, well, no. At my last team, mind you, she did nothing in the last team. That's she got kind of kicked out. She's like, my last team, we used to do the LP Mama, and it was really, really fun. And I looked at her, I'm like, well, this is not your last team. And I call her right away, I'm like, fire her right now. Never saw her again. But it was frustrating, because during that meeting, we had such high hopes, because she was just like, I'm a people person. Like, I really want to help people, and I also want to make some money, but I really want to help. After that, we were like, no more, I want to help people. It's like, you have to have a reason to work hard, and that's the only reason why you're going to be hired for it. Any similar experiences like that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've definitely had to let people go. Tom Ferry talks about the 3 toxic traits and cancers to an environment, and those are complaining, comparing, and those things are, like if they have those 3 traits, those are big red flags for me. So just, I've had agents that just complain every time we're in a meeting. It's just constant complaining. And it can be even about, it's just the level of intensity that they bring just makes everybody on edge. And I don't do well with that. It's so important to have a positive and fun environment. We start every meeting off with a game and get people just in the right mindset and having fun. Also with agents, we've started to just have a 90-day probation period, and they know, like, you've got to make it through this 90-day probation period. You are not on the team until you do.
So I'm an amiable personality trait, which means that I don't do well with confrontation. And I was speaking to a mentor of mine, and he was giving me questions to ask. He was just like, whenever you're going through an issue with, an agent or someone that you're bringing on that's not being coachable or not absorbing the information you want, the best question I love to ask is, did you change your goal without letting me know? And I was like, I like that one a lot. And it's interesting, because as you're trying to grow your team, you're thinking about what you need to accomplish your goal for that given year. And you're thinking about the players, the people you need in those seats. You need your bench to be ready to rock and loaded. But when that person's not producing, the commitment that they made to accomplishing that standard or that goal, it might not be their first priority at that moment unless you ask those questions in that certain way. But as sometimes when you're thinking about the team, you're always just like, well, you're not producing your standard. And it comes off completely different, and they go defensive. And he was just like, just approach it like this. Be like, did you change your goal and not let me know? And if they say, oh, no, well, tell me what's going on. Is this not a priority? Is something else taking like more of a priority than this? And it was helping me walk through that weakness. Being a driver, empathy is a big issue for drivers. She's like, I'm not going to talk about it.
She's like, let's go. Come on.
Yeah.
How do you combat that when you're leading the 14 agents and the staff?
I usually will need to take a breather when somebody brings me something. I ask if I can, just thank you so much for bringing that to my attention. And I hear you. I'm going to take some time to think on it and then get back to you, because sometimes I do just, I can get very like, well, just do it. I mean, just do it this way. And this is how, and so I really have learned that I need to take some time and work on my delivery. And it's definitely something I've had to work on a lot because it's hard. And I work on the same thing with my husband, I got to work on my delivery. He's always like, your delivery could have been better.
I love it.
I've been told the same.
Yeah.
Not by my husband, but.
So Jen, with 133% growth from, 170, 70, or you did 80, and then you're breaking 100 for this year.
He says he's amiable, but he's analytical.
I'm an insane freak. I'm all for.
He's the hardest person to read when it comes to the disc.
My coach got so fed up.
Definitely not a driver, but this little handkerchief and usually how he dresses makes me think he's expressive. He's writing down a million numbers and figuring out your stats for last year, but then he'll ask you about your family. So you really, you think he's amiable, analytical. He's a tough one.
It's a psychopath. No, but with that kind of growth that you have, what's your long-term vision for the team? Do you eventually want to be out of production, or do you see yourself in that role for an extended period of time?
I would say I would like to be out of production with I would say in 10 years. I really think I see myself continuing production, not because I have to, but because I love it so much. And I don't, I'm only 38. I've got plenty of years left. So I would love to continue in production for another 10 years.
Yeah. There's only so much market share you could take in your kind of area. So would expansion be a next step that you would need to take?
It's definitely something that I've thought about. So yes, I think that if we were to expand, there's 2 markets I have in mind and I've been doing market research on, and I could see that happening.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I was leading into this one with this. How are you going to put the culture into another room, into another area when you expand?
That's the biggest concern with expansion, is just how am I going to continue the culture? And I think that Zoom is fantastic. I love that we can have these conversations anywhere in the world, and that's great. But there's something to be said about having in-person communication. So any market that we expand to would have to be a market where I can have face-to-face time with the agents and make sure that they're getting the love and attention that they need and deserve. So they would have to be somewhat close by. I also have really thought about having, I would hire a pod leader or a team leader that's in those markets that I feel like emulates what I'm doing, and I can coach so that then they can bring that same culture there as well. But I still myself would want to be involved and be able to spend time with them. So
yeah. If you had to walk us through your org chart, so you said you had 3 staff and 14 agents, right? So the 3 staff that you have, is any of them like in leadership positions, like operations manager or whatnot?
Yeah, I have an operations manager, I have a listing coordinator / transaction coordinator, and I have a marketing coordinator.
Okay, got it. So to replace yourself, you would need a sales manager, or you would need to, got it, okay. And the recruiting, all those agents came in from they were attracted to you from, what you were doing, from the team that you had built from there.
Yes, mostly social media. I think just showing the team culture on social media has brought a lot of interest, and also just the fact that we're doing things differently. When I moved here, it was like the wild, wild west. There was nobody was using, they were sticking metal signs in the yard. Nobody had the nice white, beautiful signposts. There still very few agents stage because there are no staging companies. So I started my own, had to pivot there and figure out how to get that done. So we stage, we have very high-end listing videos, and all of those things are something that is unique to the team. So that's attractive to agents as well.